Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Integrative You Radio. We got Dr. Nick, Dr. Nicole here, and we are gonna get weird.
It's well,
I'm feeling it today.
yes, you are.
I was like,
Nothing's
get in
new.
your room,
Nothing's new.
get on Zoom now. Let's do this.
I'm used to being bossed around, so let's go.
I just was reporting at breakfast this morning that you know, the world of conventional medicine will never not make me rage, even though I'm on this journey to really, balance myself and enlighten myself.
And I said, well, I guess I'll see your rage in your next life because you're not learning the lesson.
So anyway, we're going to help you to gain clarity from recent experiences.
What's
So
fueling
all
your rage, Dr. Nicole? What's fueling your
oh,
rage?
thank you so much for asking. So on a serious side note, we've had some unfortunate events that have unfolded over the past few weeks with families. So my mom personally had a hemorrhagic stroke. We hoped that the day never came, but unfortunately, when you observe family members that aren't necessarily taking an interest in their health, and even though they have accessibility to what Nick and I do, just not taking advantage of that because it's their journey and they're not ready and all of the other reasons. So, based off of what we knew in her case, we knew that essentially she was a bit of a ticking time bomb. And of course, we hoped nothing would ever happen, but shit happens sometimes. But I think that one point to take away is that strokes don't just happen to people. They're not bad luck, they're not bad genes. There is a series of things that are going on inside of the body for an extended amount of time. And the stroke happens when there is the one thing that essentially is the straw that broke the camel's back. And there's a tipping point. And this is not just with a stroke. We actually talk about this a lot with our clients. I felt fine and then all of a sudden I didn't. I was fine and then all of a sudden I had type 1 diabetes. I was fine and then all of a sudden I had panic attacks. And it's not that you were fine. Most of what you experienced was your quote unquote normal, and there was something that was that tipped you over the tipping point. And sometimes that is a stressful event, an emotional event. Sometimes that is a specific toxin. It's an injury. It's a car accident. It's a, sporting accident. It could be so many things. But in the event of navigating this situation, the first people that were called when this happened was Nick and I. And my dad was like, I think your mom had a stroke. What do I do? And of course, we were not there. We did not have data. We didn't have the opportunity to get there quickly. And we said, we need to be safe. You need to go to the hospital because if it is hemorrhagic, because we didn't know that at the time, there could be serious problems if there's a bleed in the brain. And so we felt that that was the best option going to the hospital. We also knew that there was going to be a lot of other layers to navigate. And we said, we will be here on call to assist in this process. So we want to talk to you about why we, one, need an advocate when we are in a hospital emergency situation, or we need to be our own advocate. And I say both because you don't just say, "Oh, tomorrow I'm going to be my own advocate." You don't have the tools and the knowledge base yet. So you essentially have to dedicate time and energy to be able to be knowledgeable enough in order to be your own advocate. Otherwise, you have people that are experts in this field like us that are your advocate. Because there's a lot of shit that happens that you don't know about, and there's a lot of shit that happens that they don't necessarily ask for your consent. They're not necessarily asking, "Oh, do you approve this medication or not?" They assume you don't know shit. So we're gonna get into that, but
I think
the
today I'm just going to ask questions and just fucking get your rage out today. So I want to start asking questions. I know you're
okay,
still telling the
go
story,
go
but I
go.
want to
Let's
ask
do let's do
questions.
the thing.
So you initially, actually, I want to go all the way back. Um,
Mhm.
so you said unfortunately initially.
I knew
that
you were
things
going to call
happen.
me out on that.
And I'm taking notes here. And it's what I do. I listen to people's verbiage and body language all day. So this is the part of what fuels your rage. And I
Yes.
think we're gonna like name this, Nicole's rage against the medical system. Uh, and you said it was unfortunate, and you could look at it and say it was unfortunate to your mom that she had this, but you said, she had the opportunity, she didn't use it. It's
Yes.
unfortunate for your dad that he's has to drop everything for the most part in his life right now, and he's a primary
Be a
caretaker.
caretaker. Yeah.
It's unfortunate for you and your brother and sister that now they're deterred from their families, their lives, their work, and they're all now having to be a part of navigating this. And this this is such a common practice because it's a common belief in all of our society.
Yeah.
Everybody goes through this, and this is why I actually wanted to go back to this point. It seems like a small thing, but if if we can't figure out the blessing and the stressing, everybody's fucked. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate for everybody. So one of the primary things is, and this is, we'll get deeper in this as we go, because if you can use this,
Hmm.
you're a portion of your mom. So you actually helping to heal from this event, which is directly tied to your mom, that change in your genetic expression is actually going, energy flows bidirectional, is going to flow backwards up to help her have more of a potential, more of an opportunity to heal herself.
Hmm.
And that's the
100%.
only way we can heal. That's the truly only way we can help. We're programmed and we're taught through society that, we need to help through physically being there, through being the caretaker, and all those things are beneficial. But the truly only way we can help somebody is by healing ourselves.
Hmm.
And that actually allows for healing to occur in others.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And the thing about this, I actually, for those of you that are like, okay, where are we going with this? We're breaking this down. It was going to be two parts. Now it's going to be three parts based off of these questions that Nick is asking. Because I think, one, we need to have a serious conversation about this idea of swooping in to save someone and being a caretaker. I think that we also need to talk about the level of heightened emotions that can come along with this. And one of the avenues that we're going to talk in depth about is a panic attack. Um, and how they can actually be exactly what the body needs in that moment and be beneficial. And then the other part of this is understanding what's actually happening inside of hospital settings and how can you fucking navigate that in the best fashion possible to help the person that is under direct care. That's really the three parts as of in this moment that I want to talk about. So I think we need to talk more about the caretaker part, and then we're going to break this down into two other podcasts to continue the conversation. So the normal, I don't want to say the normal me, the old version of me, the I want to save everyone. This was not just about family. This has been hence the field that I'm in. I was of the mindset I want to save people.
That's why she married
And
me. I needed saving.
you're kind of not wrong.
I'm
Look at you now. You're great.
I'm perfect.
And I couldn't do that. And don't get me wrong, if I was in South Carolina still and not in Italy, it would have been easy to just swoop right in and get to that hospital and do all the things and be her, ride or die advocate. But I couldn't. I'm in Italy. My visa is not solidified. Like I can't get on a plane. And what's kind of interesting is that, and I feel like some of you maybe have had this experience, is that I said about, I would say, what was it, a week in? I said to my dad, I go, I don't want this to sound bad, but if I got on a plane and brought my 2-month-old baby and my entire family over to the US to quote unquote save mom, help mom, I'd be fucking pissed right now. And the reason I said that is because she was like, leave me alone. Don't bother me. I don't want to be touched. And this is not necessarily because we were trying to weigh out, is this neurological damage from the stroke or not? And it wasn't, it was just behavioral. And I said to my dad, I go, has she been like, because obviously when I talk to her on the phone, there's a certain face that I see, there's a certain behavior that I experience. And he goes, no, this is the way she always is. He's like, she's just, she's not going to act like that to you on the phone, but this is the way she is on a regular basis. And I sent over, $1,000 worth of supplements and put them all in a smoothie. She didn't want to drink the smoothie. She didn't want to take the supplement. She didn't want to do the red light. She didn't want to do anything. And I was just like, imagine spending multi thousands of dollars bringing a 2-month old on a plane for 10 hours and then getting there to someone who's like, I don't want to fucking do anything you want me to do. And this is so a person, a family member that swoops in as like, I'm going to help, I'm going to save, I'm going to be the caretaker. You go through this like anxiety, worry, and then you even go through grief because you're like, what if this person dies? What if something really bad happens? And then you don't feel any level of appreciation for what you're doing at times, and then you move into anger and resentment. And so now you're compromising yourself, putting yourself in a bad emotional state. And especially if you're trying to be a caretaker for someone who is a direct link to your DNA, a parent, a grandparent, a sister, a brother, you guys are entangled, you share similar DNA. And so you are actually perpetuating and fueling the process to go in a negative direction if you feel like shit, if you're in a bad emotional state, because again, there's an entanglement energetically, emotionally, and actually scientifically based on the DNA.
A lot of things.
I was like, I'm going to pause because Nick's got to have something to say.
I think you made a good point. I just want to make it more, I guess, black and white for people. Is like we go usually into this emotional response, and that emotional response is I'm going to over save. I'm going to go above and beyond and try to save.
Hmm.
Well, taking a pause and like, why does one act like that? And it's to counterbalance the equal and opposite responses because there's a perceived of an over amount of loss that can occur. So if you have an imbalance, and when you think of loss is the amount of loss that one perceives is connected to the amount of grief one will have. Grief is just the feeling that's connected to the thoughts. All of our feelings are connected to our thoughts. So if we have a thought process that we're losing something, then we're going to have grief. If you're not losing something, you're gaining something, there's no grief. So, if you thought it was a blessing for your mom to pass, you wouldn't try to save her. You would actually probably try to speed the process up. Sounds kind of crazy. Um, but that's
Okay,
that's the
dynamics are different.
yeah, that's the mentality of psychology. So when you're thinking about the health of one state, grief, shame, guilt, those are the lowest energies that actually break the physical body down the quickest. And then if you're overly saving and the person got to that point in their life because they didn't care. So, I
Yes,
mean, so you're thinking that you're going to go in and save them and they're going to do all these changes, but why would they change now? Like that's who they are. You're trying to change who they are, not for them, just so you don't experience loss. So you're actually not, and this is the thing people don't
that's a good
understand is
point.
you're trying to save them, not for the betterment of them. You're trying to save them so you don't have to deal with your
Grief.
grief.
Yeah, yeah,
And that sucks. That sucks for everybody because now you're not allowing them to be who they truly are. You're not loving them for who they truly are. And you're actually not allowing yourself to use the opportunity at hand to balance out the mind so the body can be in actually regulation, homeostasis, true
yeah.
authentic self.
Well,
And
I think,
that's
go ahead.
and that's why we do need an advocate.
Mhm.
That's why we do need a coach. You know, you can only, I wrote down, it's like stress causes blinders, like on a horse. You can't see the full awareness. But at the same time, not having the full awareness is actually what causes stress.
Hmm.
So, yeah, you can have a lot of tools, but life is going to throw you circumstances and moments that are going to cause stress. And when we're deep in that stress, it's important to at least have the awareness to know that I'm missing awareness. I have an imbalanced perception right now that's actually causing the stress. So I need an advocate. I need a coach. I need somebody to help me have more awareness so that I can actually use the tools that I have or teach me tools that I don't have.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that we need to take away from this, though, is you can't save anyone. This is not, it is not your job. It is not your journey. It's the person's journey. And so, what's kind of interesting about, like, piggybacking off of what you're saying, what's interesting about where the bleed was for my mom, the hemorrhagic stroke, it was in the thalamus. If you get into the world of new Germanic medicine, you can, when you have a stroke that specifically affects the part of the brain called the thalamus, this is connected to the limbic center, or the limbic system, and it's actually correlated with the conflict that you've given up on life. You no longer want to live. So I obviously expressed this to my dad about, the part of the brain that was affected by the stroke, and he goes, she's been talking like this leading up to the stroke. And so when you think about, like, what is the reason why somebody wants to give up on life, it's because they have a perceived loss of what is in their current reality. And the other layer to this is, and this is a lot of moms, I think, is that their kids leave. Their kids grow up, they leave, they become empty nesters. And it's not that my parents haven't been empty nesters for a long time, but also we moved away. And, my brother's far away, my sister's far away, their grandkids are far away. And, there was a loss of purpose. There was a shift in identity. There was something that was hard to digest, hard to process, that she was unable to figure out, how do I overcome this, or how do I work through this? Not necessarily that she was looking for those tools. So she got to a point mentally that she's like, I guess I just have to give up because this is my reality. And this is kind of what I was talking about, this idea that the straw that broke the camel's back is that you can make an unconscious decision of, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. What is this life? I don't like this life. I don't want this life. And that can be one of the events, one of those unconscious decisions that can be the straw that broke the camel's back, that now something shifts in your health. And so, one of the things that I think a lot of people need to realize is that she, my mom has a journey right now. She has a journey to either continue this trajectory of giving up on herself, which we will see her further and further and further decline, or she has an opportunity to become a victor, to this circumstance. And the best thing that myself, Nick, my siblings have done is just to love her in this moment, not think the worst, but be prepared for anything, and just be supportive, loving, and encouraging to her. And we've just been having fun conversations with her, getting her to laugh a little bit. We're very fortunate that she's cognitively there. She's not what she was, but she's okay. Um, and she's been shifting. And she then all of a sudden, about a week ago, said, all right, to my dad, I'll do the red light. I'll drink the smoothie. I'll take the supplements. And she went from full paralysis on the left side of her body to she can move her left leg now. And she was standing as of 2 days ago. Um, they're getting her ready to leave the rehab. They canceled the chairlift, and they actually recommended canceling the, special bed for that, will allow her to get in and out. regularly. So the only thing that they're recommending is a wheelchair, but they actually anticipate that she's not going to need it long term. Like that's a lot of progress in 1 week, and it's because a switch flipped. She
Can I,
mentally decided I have something to live for.
one of the, I've weirdly studied death quite a bit, started it in undergrad. And it's interesting. What I found is that, like you said, people just want to be loved. But going back to the saving is most of the time we tend to offer and extend love in the way that we want to feel it, not necessarily how they want to feel it. Hence, if we're trying to save somebody, we're trying to change them. We're trying to change who they are. And your mom was being what we would say, I even called her like a little bit of a stubborn bitch because she wasn't taking the smoothies or the supplements or anything.
Mhm.
And optimal growth is a balance of challenge and support. So your entire family was giving her a lot of support, and she needed it. She in her mind was all challenge. So that was helping to balance out the equation. But I kind of saw from an outside perspective, especially because I'm not sharing in any of, I love your mom, but I'm not, interconnected the way you guys are. So I lovingly called her out.
Yes.
Uh, and, but I did it in a way that was like, hey, we don't care what you do, but right now you're miserable and you're in pain and you're not happy. And if you want to stay that way, guess what? We're going to love you perfectly for staying that way because it's your choice. And we're going to love you for whatever you do, whoever you are. But if you want to change and you want to stop being in pain and stop complaining and stop all of this bullshit, it's you that has to make a choice.
Yep.
It's you that has to start, drinking the smoothie. Pete can make it for you, but you have to drink it. And that's the best part of what I think families should be doing is we should be there giving them the opportunity, but not forcing. And
Yeah.
I think that's a hard thing to realize and to do when you're in that emotional state because, you know, most of us we're so ingrained that we kind of push over and we want to save because we don't want to grieve. Grieving sucks. But it's you won't the interesting part about it is you'll heal and you balance your perception when we just love somebody for who they are, and that will actually decrease, if not negate, the grieving process for you at all because you won't lose anything because you'll be there 100% and love the person 100% and to be able to acknowledge and receive as well as give 100%. There'll be that perfect balance.
Mhm.
So it actually helps both parties when we show up like that.
Yeah. And one thing that I just want to make note of as well is that if Nick and I were readily available and we, went to the hospital and we were there and partaking in this
Nicole would probably be in jail.
well, we'll get to that in the next podcast.
I
Um but one of the first things when I was talking to my dad about, the flex beam and the amp coil and like some of the therapies that would be beneficial for her neurological recovery, his first response was, I don't know how to work an amp coil. And I was like, that's your fucking answer right now? Like, really? And so this is actually, my dad is he's gonna be like he's gonna be 70 in, shortly. And he comes from a very different era where, he doesn't know how to cook. Like he's, the woman was the caretaker and she cooked and she cleaned and, he went to work and then he came home and he doesn't do laundry, he doesn't cook, he doesn't do any of those things. And he is also like, I don't know how to do those things. Like since my mom's been in the hospital, he's been eating out. He's like, I'm not going to learn how to cook right now. And so he kind of carries that and he's like, well, your mom would always set up the amp. I don't know how to use this thing. And I'm like, well, fucking learn. And so it's actually been very interesting that he has had this opportunity to go from disempowered of I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do this, and him being totally okay with that response of, well, nobody's here to fucking do it for you. So you either step it up because no one's here to do it for you. Like we're not coming to do it for you. And so he had to put that belief system, that program, that disempowerment aside and learn how to do these things, learn how to take care of himself, which now is actually helping my mom because he's taking self accountability and self responsibility for himself because he's been forced to. And so this is something that if he is, the closest to her and in her direct, energy field all the time, if he's more empowered, it actually helps her as well. And for those of you that are like, this sounds crazy, like this is how it works. This is why when you work in a shit environment where there's bad culture and everybody's talking shit and everybody hates their job, you feel that. Even if you're like, I technically like what I do, you you don't enjoy waking up and going to that place every day. And it's the vice versa. You could literally hate what you actually do, but if you like your coworkers and it's a fun environment, you'll keep doing it. This is why, people will say like, the pay is not that great and the benefits are not that great, but I really like my job and they stay because it's the environment. And so the same thing happens in family dynamics. It's maybe even more so because you're together for such long amounts of time, you sleep in the same bed, etc. Um, so these things matter a lot more. For my entrepreneurs that listen, you've probably heard many of the, business coaching gurus say your wealth will reflect the five people that you spend the most time with. So, if you're the richest one in your friends group and everybody else is, in a scarcity mindset, like you're plateaued. You're not going to go any further until you surround yourself with people that are where you want to be.
I think this is the perfect gateway to say, get excited for the next podcast because we're
Yes.
going to talk about being able to actually release, change that environment
Mhm.
and the perceptions that we've been taught on what releasing needs to look like can hold us back.
Yes. So let's just high level recap for you guys here. Swooping in, especially if you are in an anxious state of, oh shit, emergency, this is bad, swooping in to save someone, not necessarily going to be beneficial for you, not necessarily beneficial for the person that you were trying to quote unquote save. You need to calm your system down to a place that you feel neutral and you're going to help them or you're going to be with them out of inspiration because you want to love them and you want to support them, not out of desperation. I need to save them. Holy shit, they're going to die. What if they die? What's going to happen to the family? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to us? You need to shift that. This is a check in that you should be doing in all different parts of your life. Am I in a place of inspiration or am I in a place of desperation? Nothing good comes out of desperation. You cannot force someone to do anything they don't want to do. If this is health related, someone got to a place, they had the stroke, they had the heart attack, they had it for a reason. They had it for a reason because it's part of their journey and they have an opportunity to learn something from it and to overcome it and be better than they ever were. But they also got to that point because they didn't do what they needed to do for themselves.
And you're a part of that quote unquote problem because there's an opportunity for you as well.
100%. So we really need to understand that people have to be accountable for the decisions that they made that led them to this quote unquote bad health event. They do not happen for no fucking reason. Like get out of that mindset that it just happens because your uncle had it or it's in the family history. Like that's not how it works. The only reason it's in family history is because there is an energetic emotional cycle that nobody has been able to break because they haven't tried to. And so if you can be supportive and loving from a place of inspiration for that person, that's going to be the best thing. And now it comes to being able to know how to use that place of inspiration, that place of calm, that place of centeredness, where you have more mental clarity because you're not in a fear state. And now, how do you use that to help you navigate the medical system? That's where we're going next because this is going to be a big one. All right,
Ciao.
see you on the next one. Ciao.